Ladies and gentlemen, welcome here at the TV Pavilion, right at the K26 team at the VDMA booth. We have in our talk at the Pavilion today's topic, which is Industry 4.0 in the US, or better said, the Internet of Things. We're talking about this topic already the entire day, and now I have some very exciting guests here on my stage that I would like to introduce to you first. To start with, welcome here on my stage, Andrew Wheeler, President of Windmöller and Hölscher Corporation in North America. Welcome.
Thank you.
As well, welcome to you, Ulrich Bartel from Coperion.
Thank you.
Then we have Skarke from Herrmann Ultraschalltechnik in the US. And last but not least, welcome to you, Mike Prachar, Vice President Marketing and Product Management of Milacon.
Thank you.
We are talking about the Internet of Things, something that we are trying here in Europe or in Germany to give an answer to with Industry 4.0. Mr. Wheeler, how do you think, or how would you judge in comparison the American Internet of Things compared to the Industry 4.0? Are we in Germany behind it or on front?
It's a very interesting question because when I was asked this the first time, I had to go look it up. And the reason why was not because the technology and the goal of integration of machinery and so on is not done. It's just that I didn't know the name for it, and I didn't think that we had the name for it. So the the Internet of Things was a fairly new term for me, even though I had heard Industry 4.0. And so I would say there are a lot of examples of it in our industry that are already in place, and we are moving more towards it every single day. I think at W&H we're really doing a lot in that direction, and so I would say that we're a very high-tech country in the United States. We love the German machines and we love the German technology. So there's a very, very easy crossover from one country to the next.
But how is the U.S. market, the user and the industry customer accustomed to those applications where the internet, where cloud applications are concerned? Can you tell us a little bit about that? Is the entire U.S. market prepared for the Internet of Things in a better way than here in Germany, Mr. Prachar?
It varies. In the U.S., just like everywhere in the world, you have big customers and you have small customers. You have, in some cases, big customers are more advanced than small, but not always the case. Some small customers are very quick to engage new technology and try it. So what we do, we see a variety of where it is. All the customers, when you talk and say and ask them, do they want to do more? Do they want to do better? Inherently, that's always yes. But to do and engage in things, we've seen some customers really embrace the idea. But the thing we have noticed is their ability to understand what that means. So someone say, "Can I look at that? And will you give me all the information you can from my entire processing line?" Yes, we can. Then they get it, and you go back and you check with them, and they've done nothing with it. Because it comes so fast. And one of the things in our industry, I think, that is not only giving them people tools, educating and understanding then what to do with that information for their processes. I think that becomes part of the challenge in educating the industry to how they interpret it and then what to do. That's the next step.
Mr. Bartel, Coperion is part of the Hillenbrand Corporation, a U.S. company. You have a good insight into the processes in a U.S. company in comparison to a German one. Where do you see advantages as far as the R&D activities are concerned, and in this case in Industry 4.0 topics? Do we have good prerequisites here in Germany, or do we still have to learn from our colleagues in the U.S.?
Difficult question. I mean, if I compare the two regions, I would not really compare it on US versus Europe or Germany, I really would like to answer that question more in the direction of the customer. So it really depends, as you also just mentioned, on the customer. You have customers who are very open to new developments, to changes, and those customers usually also have, I would call it a bit more qualified workforce than other customers who are just producing in order to sell the products. But if you have customers who are open to also new developments, new formulations, they are much more open to changes. So it also depends a bit on which industries I think our customers are serving.
Mm-hmm. Talking about Herrmann Ultraschalltechnik, you as well are present in the US market.
Yes.
You are present in all regions. But what specialty do you see in the US market, Mr. Skarke, as far as the Internet of Things is concerned? Is that an easy cake for you to convince customers of those technologies, or do you still have a way to go?
I would say it depends on, like we mentioned already earlier in the round, it's really industry specific. Herrmann, of course, has a very large platform of different customers, different industries, and especially in the United States, we're focusing a lot in medical industry. And I would say in the medical industry, we've seen really openness and communication, data exchange, information, making processes better, more stable, much earlier than in other industries. But it's clearly also driven from, I would say, the younger generation that come on board, are more willing, also more open and more comfortable with the technology.
Mr. Wheeler, when you're meeting with your colleagues here in Germany in the headquarters, and you sit together talking about strategies for the future, what is your target for the US market? Is that always a combination of machinery technology plus Internet of Things or Industry 4.0, or what is the balance between those two technology areas?
Well, the interesting thing is that W&H has coined the term packaging 4.0 as an offshoot of Industry 4.0, and we are really following that philosophy very strongly right now. The idea of having smart machines, smart production, smart service all intertwined is fantastic, and the U.S. customers have really embraced it. I remember, must be 15, 20 years ago, trying to figure out how we could improve our service support for machines coming over from Germany. And I read about Caterpillar having these smart machines in these oil fields somewhere, and the machine informs the home office that a part says, "I'm failing, I'm about to fail, can you replace me?" And I thought that was a great idea. I think that that's where we're heading towards with the service on our machines. But it's also interacting with our customers and their machines following ours, the converting equipment, so that we get real-time information back from our customers on the end products to see how our machines are performing. And that's something that the U.S. market, North American market, has embraced absolutely wholeheartedly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mr. Prachar, when looking at this K in the year 2016, in comparison to the last K 3 years ago, there is quite a, let's say, a quick adaptation to this Industry 4.0 stuff. So last time there was almost nobody talking about Industry 4.0. Now everybody nearly is talking about this topic. So quite a quick adaptation to that. If you compare that to trade shows in the US, how would you say is the difference between approaching the US market in comparison to what we're doing here in Düsseldorf?
There's no doubt that this case show, there's a lot of pre-work done around 4.0. So it was clearly going to be a theme. And everybody sort of ramped up accordingly and brought forward a lot of tools that they may have had, but they didn't know or call it maybe something else, and really able to put it under the umbrella of the 4.0. So I think I would say with the K show and the leadership group here, that was a great thing to bring it to the forefront. If you were to compare it to the U.S. trade shows, and the most comparable one is NPE every 3 years, there were a handful of companies that were showing things that would be related to it.
Only a handful.
Only a handful, and it hasn't been that long ago. But if we think about technology and this type of technology, and at the rate it moves, it moves exponentially if you compare it to the other phases. If you have 1.0, 2, and 3, 4 is going to move at a clearly a different rate. So just to see from NPE where there's just some to this show where there's many, and I believe from here on out you're going to see more and more, and I look forward to that because I think that from the competition, that just that forces all the people to keep working and working and working. And who does it benefit? Well, it benefits the customers, benefits our industry. So definitely a clear difference here at this show because of the emphasis that was initiated.
Mm-hmm. And we have those association activities, like the VDMA is pushing very hard together with their partners to present this topic to the markets jointly. Do you have something comparable in North America as well, Mr. Bartel?
Oh, sorry. If I go to the NPE, for example, or if we look into what we are selling, our products, I must admit right now we are surely active in that area, but we are tending to more ask the customers, discuss with the customers what is really their understanding of this 4.0, and it doesn't matter if it is the US or Europe. It is still, I think, on the verge of what is really the understanding of 4.0. And there I also would not see a difference between the different regions.
But do you have an association supporting your activities? Is there also a joint presentation of this topic overall to the market, or do all the companies have to fight on their own?
No, I think it's an overall presentation. It's first of all this vision which we are showing at our booth. We have started here for the first time to move a bit away from this classical equipment exhibit where you can grab what engineers like. I'm an engineer by myself, so it's not bad, I think. But if you show something also what you could do with 4.0 and show some vision, maybe even if you take an example, if you have an installation or startup of equipment in Asia or in remote locations, nowadays it's more and more difficult to find engineers who are willing to go there. You could have locals there taking care of that installation, and you have someone sitting in Europe or US in head offices and guiding that person with glasses on and seeing what they are doing over there, especially when you have installation and startups over a long time of 6, 7, 8 months, like we do.
Let's talk about the relationship between the industry and the people who have to handle those machines, because here on the K we could clearly see that there is a discussion running behind the scenes where we're talking about the working process, the working world, how people are involved in this technology processes. Mr. Skarke, how do you see that in the US? Are the people, the workers, for example, open to these new technologies, or are they hesitating, or is there maybe some kind of hesitation to jump into this new technology of Internet of Things?
I would say it's definitely a mix, but clearly there is a lot of hesitation, because I think a lot of people feel like that they maybe kind of lose their job again over technology that's being implemented. However, they don't really see the opportunities that there will be a lot of new companies coming on board, being able actually to implement these technologies, how machines are communicating, how to optimize processes. I think it's just a matter of how you communicate it to the people, present the technology, present the opportunities that are actually coming with these technologies, and so it's a mixed feeling, and clearly it has to be an adaptation, and at this point for sure it's more pushed from the companies and industries, and not so much really from the customer himself.
Talking about pushed from somebody, here in our case in Germany, for example, this topic Industry 4.0 was really pushed from the political side as well, because it was an opportunity to bring up new technology and jump into the market with something sexy, let's say. At the end, we achieved and then we succeeded to do that, but is there something comparable in the US as well, or is the political side not really supporting that, Mr. Wheeler?
I think that the political side supports it if our political system sort of flows a little bit with the wind back and forth.
I know, yeah.
If it's popular or not. So I think
topic.
that it's driven more from the leaders of industry than it is politically. I don't know if my colleagues here would agree, but our feeling is that ideas like this that are really cutting edge ideas tend to be driven from the top down, because the business owner looks at it and says, this makes sense for me, because his worker on the machine might not realize what this efficiency costs or this inefficiency costs. So as long as the idea is a sound one, however, and as long as the ease of use is there, then I think that it is very easy to implement with the workers. The other thing that they have to realize is that this is not done to make their jobs obsolete, but to enhance their jobs. And what we have tried to do, I don't know about all of the industries that these gentlemen are in, but in our industry, a good operator can really make magic happen with the machine. A less good operator may struggle. And so what we try to do with our machines is try to take some of the difference out between the two. The good operator is still going to be that much more efficient, but the weaker ones will not. And so what we've tried to do is systematically go after the weaknesses, the inherent weaknesses in the business, reducing scrap, reducing changeover time, all of those things that everybody struggles with, because at the K, I think that no matter what industry, what machines are being used, resin, raw material, is the number one cost. It has to be. That is what plastics are. So if we can lead to a more efficient use of those plastics and reduce the scrap, then the advantages are huge.
When talking about Industry 4.0 here in Germany, in Europe, then usually in one sentence you combine this topic together with data and data safety, data security, and it was only some days ago when we had a major and severe data attack on the worldwide DNS network on the internet. Many people who are hesitating and still are not convinced of Industry 4.0 are now saying, well, you see, that's the danger. We are all losing this game against those hackers and so on. Is there the same or a similar hesitation in the US, or are people more willing to accept the chances and the risks and know that it's part of the game?
Security is paramount for everybody, and we go through. We've had many conversations at the show. We're showing stuff, so we have a lot of dialogue, and inevitably we get to the point of security, and it's critical. It has to be addressed. If we have all this information and we're pushing it to the cloud, without that security, without the customer feeling that their information is used for them and controlled by them, we think there'll be an issue. And it has to be a part of it. No different than the banking, no different than any of the other types of information, whether that's Amazon, Google. Everybody has the security. Can you eliminate it? We'll see. There's all kinds of security people who try to do what they try to do in the world, and some of the biggest companies have yet to prevent that. But I believe that concern and that hesitation may be one of the things that is why you haven't seen more of this. So the manufacturers are coming out with this and trying to present this, but the customers, I think, for the most part, are saying, we love it. Give it to us. And we say, oh, but hold on. We still have the data. How do we control that? And it really does slow down the process, and I believe it slows down adoption in our industry. So when we get to the point where we're able to provide and communicate that the information is truly secure, how do we do that? And we'll absolutely have IT people talk to IT people in order to break down those barriers. I think once everybody overcomes that to a degree, then we'll see it be more and more accepted, and we'll see the ramp up of that adoption.
Mr. Bartel, do you think that data security might be a showstopper, might be dangerous to the development or ramp up of Industry 4.0 in the global market, or do you think that we are soon be able to manage that?
I think if we can show the customer that data safety security is not a topic, then we will also find many more customers who are willing to, for example, let us look into their data in order to analyze maybe some problems they are having. And even prior to 4.0, we are equipping every of our machine in the control cabinet with the opportunity to connect, to look into. So we basically could run for a customer out of Europe or the US machine worldwide. But I must admit, as also my colleague said, I would say more than 90% of our customers do not allow us to have a permanent access. So they want to be the master of the switch. But I think now with 4.0, we are a step ahead. So we're not just looking into data, analyzing data. Topics like predictive and preventive maintenance, where the customer really gets, I think, much more benefit even out of it. That is a topic where surely it needs to be discussed together, but I think will not be a showstopper, will not be prevented. It will come up, but I think it's also a question to the IT industry how they give us more internet security.
I have been looking on your machines and how you present them, and if you look, for example, at the panels that you have to run the machines, they all have one thing in common. The man-machine interface has become extremely simple to use. So it's sometimes one push of a button and you can run the entire system or change up parameters and so on. So that is positive, but there are critics who say, well, that makes it easy for everybody, no matter what the level of skill of education is. So doesn't that doesn't that open the risk of losing low-skilled jobs to regions, for example, in Asia or in Africa or in South America, which until now didn't have the chance to run those complicated machines? Mr. Wheeler.
It's a very good question. The level of skill of operator coming into the flexible packaging industry is often very low. They're getting kids out of school and they're competing with the Walmart in town for the same jobs. And it's really remarkable because we have multi-million-dollar machinery being invested, and then you've got somebody who's had 3 weeks of training running it. So yes, it's very difficult. And there is a level of training that you can always give. I remember meeting with one customer, and he told me that it was very difficult to compete in his area because there was a car plant, and there were this plant and this plant. And I asked him what the attrition rate was, and he said it was 100% over the year. He could not keep operators. So if you then have the people who have just left, or the people who are just got there training the new people coming in, there's a little bit of the blind leading the blind, which means that the user interface has got to be easy and have the really smart stuff going on sort of behind the interface, because we have a lot of technology involved in our equipment, and we don't want, we want the interface to be an interface, not a control portion.
Mm-hmm.
So.
But this again is a confirmation that the easier the job is, the easier is to transfer it to another market, to another labor market. So isn't that really a risk of losing those jobs, Mr. Prachar?
The control is, if you simplify, if that was this only single element that decided where it went, maybe there'd be some risk. I believe the interfaces have maybe become simpler, but I don't know if it's really gone down so far that you could bring someone off. You go hire someone in a week, they have full knowledge. These machines, and I can't speak to everybody's, they're still very complex. The interfaces are more intuitive, but I think what we see is actually the interfaces are more powerful than what they've ever been, and they can do more. I would, so to some degree, even though things get a little bit more straightforward, I think the power within the machines has become more, and that you still need a level of understanding and education in order to be able to run these machines. The attrition for everybody. That's one of the biggest issues, I think, in the industry globally, is trying to find the right labor, keep them, train them. And I think it's important that not only for the 4.0 and all the things that we do, is what do we work on to make sure that we help onboard and train people, at least from a machinery standpoint, to make it easier, because that turnover always happens. So I think that's a continuous challenge for everybody in the industry. But the controls themselves, they may be easier and they may look better. I believe they're equally as complex as they've been and more powerful. And I think the user level is still extremely important in order to operate the equipment to the highest degree it needs to.
I would like to talk to you about the relationship between your company and the customer. As far as I understand it, with Industrie 4.0 or Internet of Things, you are now able to lift your, let's say, importance to a higher level, because you're not talking only about your process, not only about the product step that your machine is doing, but you're involved in the entire process. Mr. Skarke, how did Industry 4.0 change the relationship to your customer, to the project managers, to the R&D people? Have you been able to boost your relationship and your importance for your customers?
I would say it did, clearly, because we of course jumped on the same platform, and we're hoping to utilize Industry 4.0 as another push. However, Herrmann Ultraschall has really for many years already pushed very much to have a very open communication, that the devices are kind of smart already, being able to really provide our customers with information they really need to make their processes better. That was always we are strong believers in making our customers very smart and educated. The same topic, talking about make it simple, we also try to, of course, minimize the complexity of our interfaces, so that really even not so skilled people are able to really operate these devices. But clearly the Industry 4.0 was another push for us to be able to really present this even more and further and bring the technology that we have and the data that is important to our customers even closer.
Mr. Bartel, how's your experience?
I would phrase it even a bit tougher. If you would not follow the motto of this fair 4.0, it would be very difficult to even talk to your customer. Maybe they would not even come to your booth anymore. And even though if you do not have an answer to all of their questions, but at least they see that you're working on that topic, that you are interested in the questions the customer have, and he also does not have all the answers. And I guess that is more the topic, because I mean, if you go around here to all the booths, you will see 4.0 all over. It's I would say part of every booth, and not doing that, I guess, would keep you kind of out of the race.
Okay. At the end of our little show, I would like to do a little game with you, just a 1 or 2 sentence game. Let's imagine we meet again in, let's say, 2Ks, so in 6 years. What will be the topics we will be talking about? Mr. Wheeler, starting with you.
Oh, you had to start with me. I needed a minute to think about that one.
Shouldn't be too easy.
Yeah, I'm going to do what the politicians do and refer back to the last question you asked, just a little bit, because I think
nice try.
I think it segues nicely into this answer. My feeling is that for W&H, for Windmöller, this has been the Industry 4.0 has been a logical step. It has not changed our relationship to our customers. It's enhanced our relationship. I think as a technological leader, we were expected to lead the way on Industry 4.0 in terms of our machines. So this was just a logical step from the levels of automation and interaction that we'd had with our customers so far. So that was very good. I think that, as someone mentioned earlier, that there were many years between the first industrial revolution and the second one, and the third, and then now the fourth, and I think that the time to the fifth will probably be much shorter. And my feeling, I don't know whether or not we will be having virtual equipment or not, but I would assume that as long as we are still working with raw materials and inks and so on, then it will continue to be about making those products thinner, faster, with more sustainability than we have previously, and the interface between the machinery supplier and the end customer, I think will be the next huge step. because right now it's a step through to our customers and potentially to their next suppliers, but we want to go to the end of the chain. You're not believing anything I said?
2 sentences, please.
Oh, sorry.
Mr. Skarke.
Sorry.
Well, I definitely believe that we will be seeing even more transparency than what we have today. We mentioned about security. I think security is a big issue. However, I would say in the US they are clearly much more open, more willing than here in Europe. They are much tighter here. But clearly the communication and the transparency of devices, machine, making them smarter, that is for sure, I can see in 6 years from now, much more advanced and much more open.
Mike Prachar, 6 years ahead, what will we see?
So I think we see the progression. Today we take the information from the machines. Step one, we're collecting it. I think the next one is we'll incorporate more preventative. Then we'll move to predictive. And then I would think the logical around those, especially with all the technology, the closer you move to artificial intelligence and you take that data, which now we would have years, and say, how do I adjust my machines? How do I adjust my equipment? Because to your point, resin and effectiveness is key. That's what's money. And the machines have to operate at the highest. So at some point, I'm not saying it's today or tomorrow, that you'll see equipment start to self-adjust potentially to get to the optimal. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing to be determined, but the data will be there in order to draw some insight, and then the next level will be intriguing.
So we need a crystal ball for sure. Mr. Bartel, 2 sentences about the future.
Okay, some long sentences. I think, as I had a bit of time to think about it, that now with all the technology we are doing, and if I look into our own company, we have not one job where the salary is on a minimum wage level, like I think in Germany it's 8.50 now, 8.50 euro, there's not one job. But I see on some of our customer side that you find there are some guys who are working on that level. But now with the technology moving forward, I guess qualification, training of people, this also will improve, will enhance. And if it is a war for talent, I mean, often stressed word, maybe too much, but at least I think that training, qualification of the engineers, of the workers, blue-collar workers at our customer side, that will be a topic in a few years.
Okay, but I see, obviously, there are more chances than risks, so we have good reason to look ahead into the future. Thank you very much, gentlemen. That was a real pleasure having you here for this exciting discussion. Thank you for being here at the TV Pavilion. Well, it's crowded. Wonderful. Thank you very much for watching. And if you like, we'll meet again tomorrow here at the TV Pavilion from the heart of the K 2016 in Düsseldorf. Thanks for watching. Bye.